All right, welcome everybody to the 2023 Innovations in International Philanthropy Symposium. We're grateful to have all of you here in person, and for those of you joining us virtually, hello from Cambridge, Massachusetts. So my name is Ina Brewer. I am the Executive Director of NEED Global and co-host of the symposium. We are a network of 180 global donors across the country and do 50 programs a year. Most of them are not as big as this one, but all of them are focused on trends in global philanthropy and global development. And it is our goal to bring global philanthropists into a vibrant community together across the country.
I'm Maggie Alexander, the Director of the Center for Global Philanthropy at the Philanthropic Initiative, or TPI, and I'm honored to be a co-host of the symposium. TPI is a nonprofit philanthropic advising firm that helps funders across the globe to be change agents and achieve greater impact with their philanthropy. TPI also contributes to the philanthropic ecosystem and works with both individuals and donor collaboratives to catalyze and shape philanthropy's role as a force for good in society.
So one of the many things that TPI and NEED Global share in common is the goal to increase giving to international causes, as well as improve the quality of giving to international causes, and to support the growth of strategic and collaborative international philanthropy by offering participants the opportunity to meet each other, to gain practical skills, and to network. So it is our goal that you all leave inspired here tomorrow.
When thinking about the why this symposium is so important to us, the answer is because of all of you. Sorry, up there in the tech. You are the change makers we need to address the mounting and complex challenges of our time. The philanthropic sector has been shifting and becoming more reflective and self-critical. We're witnessing positive changes as increasingly funders are recognizing the inherent power imbalances and the need to center equity in everything we do. Funders are listening more carefully to community actors and changing both the what they fund, but also how they fund it.
So I think we all know that while there are positive shifts in the global philanthropy community, this conversation is still happening in pockets and is fragmented. And it is certainly happening slower than the pace of change needed today. So our actions have not caught up with the words we use and the language we use about what we're doing. So there's an urgent need for donors to reflect deeply on what they leave behind and what the real lasting impact of their investments are, especially around issues of equity and power. So philanthropic actors also need to go from acting individually to acting in community together, and to act with all the other players that are active in these spaces.
We want the philanthropic sector to work better so that we can leverage our collective power and agency to better influence the private sector and the governmental sectors. We need all of us to work together for real change. So over the next 24 hours, it's our hope that we can learn from one another, be inspired by one another, to move our individual and collective philanthropic efforts to the next level. We put forward a challenge to all of us, that we walk away with a new action item that we will own and hold ourselves accountable for.
So today and tomorrow, you'll be hearing from speakers about the need to take action now in order to shape the future, finding respectful, human-centered ways to engage youth and proximal actors in efforts that affect them, and effectively supporting systems to mitigate and reverse climate change. We will be hearing about how to apply an equity lens in your philanthropy and diving into the many facets and ways that impact investing can help mobilize all your different aspects and resources you have for wealth for social good.
We need to take the philanthropy's very meaning the love of humanity, literally, as the challenge we're facing today threaten our shared humanity. The threats we are facing, or more accurately, we're leaving behind for our children to face, cross geographic and sector boundaries, climate, gender, health, democracy, civil society, peace and security. They're intersectional, and the local affects the global. While our call to action is urgent and real, we are optimistic. We know courageous action and lasting change is possible because you in this room have been part of making this world a better place. We hope that in the closing session tomorrow afternoon, you'll walk away with a new idea and new actions that you'll take individually and by working together with partners and networks. We hope you walk away feeling inspired, but also with a fire in your belly to take on the change that we need to see in the world.
So our opening keynote is entitled "The Courage to Take Extraordinary Action." The title reflects the stories of these amazing women and how they found the courage and what it took for them and those who supported them to make a difference in their societies and their communities. But the title also refers to what is needed in philanthropy and global philanthropy. We need the courage to take extraordinary action. So as you listen to them, think about the fact that you may be finding partners right here in this room who can help you on your journey.
It's by emphasizing the human and humanitarian that we connect to the stories of people with courage to take extraordinary action to support and save others. The Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity does just that, amplifying stories of the laureates like Ilwad, Elman, and Jamila, Afghani, who improves the lives of those in greatest need with the greatest personal risk. It's an honor to introduce our first keynote speakers and panel, the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, Armine, Ilwad, and Jamila. Would you please join us on the stage?
So our moderator today is the very gracious Armine Afeyan, Executive Director of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, which seeks to address on-the-ground humanitarian challenges. The Aurora Prize was founded on the behalf of the survivors of the Armenian genocide, paying forward the kind of support and aid survivors receive from others facing similar horrors.
Ilwad Elman was the 2020 Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity laureate and the CEO of the Ilman Peace Center and the 2019 nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize. Her humanitarian work focuses on women and girls and began in 2010 when, seeing the violence tear through parts of Somalia, she left Canada and returned to the region to take action.
And Jamila Afghani is the 2022 Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity laureate, founder of the Noor Educational and Capacity Development organization, as well as the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Her work in education, migration, gender, and democracy in post-conflict societies has made her truly a global champion of equity and in civil society today.
Would you join us in welcoming our first keynote speakers with a round of applause?
On the Zoom as these days go. Maggie, thank you so much to you, to your team, to everyone who made today possible, to our audience here, and most especially to our Aurora laureates, Jamila and Ilwad. Both have traveled some great distances. You can hear more about it out there later to be here with us today. And so we're very, very grateful to each of them. What we're going to do with this session is have a bit of a conversation. My name is Armine. As Ina and Maggie said, I'm the Executive Director of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative. My job is to act as a conduit for these two women's incredible stories. If I've done my job right by the end, when you think of humanitarianism, you will think of humans, and ideally, you'll be thinking of these two humans right here. So it'll be a conversation. In order to set it up, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Aurora first, and then we'll shift into hearing about each of their stories and the courageous actions that they've taken. So with that, I'm actually going to ask the team to just play the first video for us to watch. It's just a couple minutes.
The Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity is a global humanitarian award and the flagship program of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, founded by three Armenians, Nubar Afeyan, Ruben Vardanyan, and the late Barton Gregorian, on behalf of the survivors of the Armenian genocide and in gratitude to their saviors. The mission of the Aurora Prize is to recognize and support those who put themselves at risk to save the lives, health, or freedom of others suffering as a result of violent conflict, atrocity crimes, or other major human rights violations. The Aurora Prize monetary award is $1 million. The laureate receives a unique opportunity to continue the cycle of giving by supporting the organizations that help people in need. By early 2023, the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative has benefited over 2.7 million people, including more than 1.1 million individuals affected by war, conflict, displacement, persecution, and other humanitarian issues who have received support through the Aurora Prize. The program has supported or launched 49 projects implemented by 28 humanitarian organizations in 22 countries and territories. The Aurora Prize laureates are outstanding modern-day heroes demonstrating courage, commitment, and impact in their daily work. Burundian humanitarian Marguerite Baron-Keats has supported the projects that provide refugees and children affected by war with education and healthcare. American doctor Tom Katina has chosen the programs that benefit some of the world's most vulnerable communities lacking access to medical services. Rohingya lawyer Chola Aung, who sadly passed away in 2021, had supported international organizations giving medical aid and assistance to Rohingya refugees from Myanmar. Yazidi activist Mirza Denai from Iraq has selected the projects that promote peace and ensure rehabilitation, improved well-being, and sustainable livelihoods for the survivors of ISIS terror. Fartun Adan and Ilwad Elman from Somalia have chosen the programs that educate children, support abandoned babies, and women with unwanted pregnancies, and help survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. Congolese peace and women's rights activist Julian Lusenge has allocated the funds to the organizations facilitating access to healthcare and drinking water and providing support and training to survivors of violence and internally displaced persons. Jamila Afghani, women's rights activist and educator from Afghanistan, has chosen to support the projects that provide girls with access to education and empower women by offering employment opportunities, psychosocial support, and human rights advocacy. The Aurora Prize funds benefit mostly children, people displaced by conflict and genocide, and women and girls, with three key spheres being education, healthcare, and empowerment. Almost 90% of projects provide lifelong benefits to people in need, while the impact of 27% of projects will span across generations. Aurora is based on the universal concept of gratitude in action that implies that people who have received aid in time of crisis can best express their gratitude by offering similar assistance to someone else. Aurora has created a community that brings together humanitarians from across the globe, establishes a unique connection between the people committed to helping others, and empowers these selfless heroes. This global movement expands the circle of saviors and increases the number of those saved. Join Aurora and support the heroes who give life and hope to people with the most urgent needs. Express your gratitude today. Donate.
So there is a lot in the video. We chose it intentionally to present what has brought all of us here to the stage together. if there are two things that you took away from that, I would like for them to be gratitude and that gratitude's translation into action. The first reason there, gratitude, the first topic, for me personally, as a descendant of an Armenian genocide survivor, I feel deep gratitude to the folks who stepped in and enabled my existence. And as I look out into the room, I don't think it's presumptuous to say there are many people out there who have survivor stories in their lineages and with whom that sentiment may resonate. They may be further back, they may be more recent, but that sense of gratitude for being here and for those who made that possible is at the very heart of the Aurora Prize. One of our founders, the late Vartan Grigoryan, a titan in the academic and philanthropic space, former president of the Carnegie Corporation, this was his gift to us. This was the concept that he hammered home to us. And so I'd be remiss not to emphasize that gratitude. The translation into action is the Aurora Prize for us, and is also the work of the laureates and the finalists that the Aurora Prize highlights. To say a couple of words about how that works. With Aurora, we've assembled a selection committee of former heads of state, world leaders, Nobel Prize laureates, who have the incredible but sometimes unenviable job of going through hundreds of nominations and surfacing those who they feel embody the spirit of Aurora, the giving of themselves, risking their own life to save others. There's a second selection point that happens then, which is really where I want to focus today, which is once the laureates are surfaced, they have the opportunity, they receive part of the prize money, but then they also pass it on. So they'd identify beneficiary organizations in their local sphere that they are aware of and continue the cycle of giving. And we're going to hear more about how that works and how Jamila and Ilwad's work has impacted the world in just a moment. If you'll each allow me to say, though, and I am certainly biased, I think that they are some of the best at what they do. They have the access, the local knowledge. And so what I hope we'll do with this conversation today is play that out a bit and kind of share with the audience your very human stories. So with that, Maggie said it, the human and humanitarianism, that's really what we are all about. And so I'd like to open with quite a light, a human question to start, which is, the summer is coming down to a close, last final months here. I'd love to hear about something that's brought you joy over the summer. And I'm happy for either of you to start.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you all and to share this space. Despite the difficult work that we do in Somalia, and we'll get into that, I find joy every day. We work in peace and security, but love and laughter and community is such a big part of the work that we do. And some of the things that I've been doing this summer that have given me a lot of joy is surfing in Mogadishu. We've been applying a surf therapy approach to our work, and I'm terrible at it, but it's so much fun. And I obsess for hours in the ocean just trying to catch a wave. So that's been a lot of fun.
What's the, if you allow me, what's the best wave you've caught or a most memorable wave so far in your early days?
It wasn't in Somalia.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't in
All
Somalia.
right.
I went to get more training in South Africa with a partner organization of ours. And even then I was terrible, but it's just a lot of fun and it requires a lot of focus. And it's a good way to spend the difficult days in Somalia.
Thanks for that. Jamila, how about you? Something that's brought you joy this summer?
To be honest, let me first of all thank you and the organizer for having me. And to be honest, I had very little joy. If I say I hadn't any joy, it won't be wrong. Because you know that in Afghanistan, women and girls are suffering a lot. It is the only country on the planet Earth that girls are not allowed to go to school. Women are not allowed to work. So every month we are getting a new degree to shrink the space for women and to make more burden and more limitation on girls and women. So slight happiness, maybe you can say, or joy. It was good that we are running our underground home schools for thousands of girls, for the girls who are deprived from getting education formally in the country. And the adults and girls of age 12 to 16, a group initiated a dance program under the ground for the rest of the friends to release their stress, their depression. So it was beautiful. I really loved when they were playing and I was crying, sitting on Zoom, watching and talking with them. And another small joy was a group of girls. They were creating a room space for themselves to do some exercise, some sports. They were doing some karate and taekwondo. So it was good. Rest of the thing, it was so depressing, so annoying.
We're actually, it's a good segue for us. What we're going to do now is spend some time on Jamila's story. We'll spend some time on Ilwad's story, and then we'll kind of bring it together for some questions together. But just for right now, if the team would play Jamila's video, that would be great.
I started my life journey as a young disabled girl from a conservative family where education was considered a shameful act. So was my disability. Women face domestic violence all over Afghanistan. Women are not allowed to do any social activity, just like prisoners. 15th of August, Taliban take over. In this life of 40 years, this is the 6th time I'm becoming refugee. We established our center by the name of Noor Educational Center. Noor means light. I believe that education is like a candle that can reduce the darkness and it light up many other candles around it. Sometimes we believe that there is no humanity in this world anymore. But Aurora proved that humanity is still alive. I'm really thankful. I'm really humble. Thank you very much.
It helps me too. Well, as Jamila has, I've seen the video a few times, and it's still quite emotional. As we watch Jamila's story, something that really stands out, Jamila, is your continued impact in the face of just incredible risk and incredible odds. You said in the video, a refugee 6 times over, and you continue to go back, and you continue to have access to make a difference. My question for you is it's a bit of a big one, so we can break it down as well. How have you maintained that access and continued that impact in the face of so much change and challenge for you and your country?
It's a very difficult question to be answered in a very short setting. I think to be a woman, to be a mother of 2 young daughters, and always to be as a champion of women's rights in a very challenging country. So this is something has made my personality. This has become essence of my life. If I'm not working, I'm nothing. If I'm working, then I feel I'm human being, I'm alive. So whatever I suffered in my own life and my personal life with disability, with patriarchal environment that I was facing, I really want my people, my people, my daughters, children of Afghanistan to have a better life. And that is why always I have struggled in my life to give better life for Afghan girls and Afghan children, new generation. But unfortunately, when Taliban took over, whatever struggle we had, 25 years of my life, believe me, that I never remember that when I wear a cloth of my choice. I never remember to do something for my own. All the time I was looking after my activities for my community, for my people. But after Taliban take over, whatever achievement we had, small sparkles we had, it went down. Unfortunately, everything got reversed. And I had to become forced refugee once again. And very, very far away from my country, miles and miles. Now I'm living in Canada, but still I'm working through online with my colleagues, with my friends, with our large members that they are on the ground. So we are still working, but, and we will work. This is our human responsibility. We have a beautiful poet in Dari language that human beings are body part of each other. If there is a wound in one of finger, whole body will get pained. So we are human beings. If there is pain somewhere in the world, all of our body will become uncomfortable with that. I couldn't justice with the translation of the poem, but
I think it's a point well made, and you've also said, feel that education is a light that lights other candles, and kind of it builds that way. How are you today? You mentioned the underground schools and the girls that are organizing themselves with their activities. How are you maintaining that light? I hear you saying that you're working constantly, but tell us a little bit about how you kind of keep that going.
To be honest, this is only me that I'm working outside Afghanistan. Those who are living inside Afghanistan, they do not have any alternative. They have to struggle for survival. They want to change the situation for themselves. We are human beings. If there is a bit dirt in our environment, we want to clean it. If there is something not good, we want to change it. People of Afghanistan are trying. And you can see that currently the only strong opposition to Taliban are Afghan women. Because Afghanistan at the moment is a lawless country. Since Taliban came, they put on hold all constitutions, all laws, everything. Just the leader is giving orders and people are following that orders. Every month an order is coming, and every month there is an order for women to suppress women. Women are banned from going to public parks. Women are banned from going to public baths. Women are confined in their homes. Even sometimes they see their brother and father has adopted that psyche and mentality of Taliban. So Taliban are not only outside the house, Taliban are also inside the house. So they are struggling every day. Believe me, on every morning when I open my mobile, at least I have 1,000 messages on my WhatsApp, at least 900. Every day I get messages and everybody says, please, we were looking to you as a leader and we are hopeful that you can help us. They're saying like, just we need a little bit things to move. And this is what I provide a little bit drops to them. That small drops for surviving a person, to not let that person to die. Those small drops are going to the mouth of Afghan girls and women. And they are let with that get energized, and they are doing a lot of good stuff, as I mentioned before, like underground school, underground gym, underground some dance or musical activity. So these are the things which keeps me moving forward. And this is how I'm maintaining, although it has very bad impact on my health. My health is getting very bad day by day. My children are suffering a lot. But I'm glad that with all this darkness, as still we have a small candles or lightning inside the country. And I hope that these small candles will becoming more lightning in the future to change the situation. And it is only possible with support of like Aurora and some other feminist funders that they are supporting our activity. Like governments have to stop everything to Afghanistan. When US and NATO came out of from Afghanistan, they stopped everything without caring that who left them behind because of their wrong political policies. People are suffering. But these are people, these are organization, human rights organization, feminist organization, humanitarian organization. They are, we are leaning on their shoulders and they are giving us the support to continue our work.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jamila. And that's, I mean, you're speaking to your extraordinary action and the courage to keep going. We'll come back to you in just a moment. I also want to speak with Ilwad, who shares that in common, the going back, the courageous action. We're going to similarly actually start with Ilwad's video, and then we'll come into conversation again.
Husband, he came back Somalia. He started business. He used to train the youth and then hire them. That's how he started the organization called Elman. So the warlords, they lost a lot of good people who was fighting for them. And I actually started from scratch. It was nothing there. It's all the businesses, everything was gone. I get the support. I will start working with the child soldiers.
She was actually creating change, and just as we needed her, other people needed her. I was not going to stay in Somalia, but having worked with my mom, I saw that I was actually helpful and useful, so I stayed.
So far, the work we do in Somalia is very risky, but we took the risk. We chose to do that. So every time you leave home, you never know you're gonna come back or not.
This spirit of shared humanity is what makes us stronger. And the work of 2020 Aurora Prize laureates, Fartun Adan and Ilwad Elman, is a vivid testament to that.
Aurora Prize helps a lot of countries, and we really appreciate the prize because it gives us our work to continue, and also we're helping so many people.
I wish in my lifetime I can see we are safe.
Ilwad, you said something in your video that has really stuck with me and that I absolutely loved, which was you weren't planning to stay, but you saw, and I think the words that you used, that you were helpful and useful, and so you chose to stay. I'll tell you, my first reaction to that was understatement of the year. With your courage and impact, that is such a humble way to frame your work. Second thought on that is how very relatable. Who among us doesn't want to be helpful and useful? And when you find yourself in a position to do just that, what a special thing to be able to bring to bear. Not easy, immense risks, as was discussed in the video. So I would love to hear more about that decision to be a local leader, to stay, and your contributions as a local leader. I'd love to hear more about that.
I mean, it's the motivations for me to stay in Somalia are very different from the reason why I went. So I was born in Somalia. I left when I was 2, when the war was really worsening. And similar to Jamila, I fled my country in search of refuge. My mother and father at that time were already ardent peace activists in Somalia. And when the war worsened, they had to make the difficult decision to split up. My father, who at that time had started the campaign, dropped the gun, picked up the pen, and was demobilizing and disarming young people by the hundreds, would stay behind in Somalia, continue his campaign to fight for peace. My mother left with my 2 sisters and I to seek safety for us. So we spent a couple of years in Kenya through the refugee route and eventually got asylum in Canada. While we were on the journey, my father was killed in Somalia for the work that he was doing. And growing up, it was always just my mom and my 2 sisters and I. And she is a fierce custodian of my father's legacy. And she always told us that you guys can do whatever you want with your life and be whatever you want to be, but I know what I'm doing. And she had a specific target. Her benchmark was when my younger sister was in high school, that she was going to go back to Somalia to continue the work that she and my father accepted. And right away from that time, I learned from her what conviction means. Conviction so strong that you hold on to it for years. And she did it. So when my younger sister was 14 and I was 16 and my eldest sister was 18, she left. And we stayed in Canada on our own as what I believe responsible adults. And she got to pursue her purpose. And we were really happy for her. A lot of people look at that when I talk about that, saying, how could she leave you guys in Canada so young? But it's, we always knew that she was going to go back. And through her, we saw a different side of Somalia, that was depicted on mainstream media. And all we would see throughout that time is just suffering and famine and war. And it looked terrifying, but she would tell us stories of the work that she and my father were doing and how much she yearned to be a part of that. So when she went, we felt that we could hold down the fort on our own. And soon after she went, we had a very difficult time keeping in contact with her. It was arguably the height of the conflict. There was insurgency. It was the beginning development of the now extremist and fundamental group Al-Shabaab that was beginning to take root. There was the Ethiopian invasion that was happening. There wasn't social media at the time. There was no WhatsApp calls. It was scratch cards. And just 10 years ago to think, or 12 years ago to think that we did not have easy ways of communicating, but we would lose contact with her for weeks at a time. So both to appease my own heart, to understand why she was there, but also it coincided with a time in my life when I was in pursuit of conviction and purpose that strong. I was having a midlife crisis at 19, thinking, what am I doing? And I was studying international development. I felt like this is the direction I should go in. I was passionate about it. But then knowing the sacrifices my family made for this work, and then also wanting to have a deeper connection, I, against my mother's will, decided to go to Somalia. And what was supposed to be just 1 month turned into 13 years. And when I went, I was confronted with a lot of things that you see on mainstream media. At that time, Mogadishu, where she and I lived, out of the 17 districts, only 2 were controlled by the government. The rest was controlled by Al-Shabaab, and it was an active war zone. And it was terrifying, but I also saw the work that she was doing. And I also saw how the majority of people that she was working with were children and youth. The population in Somalia, nearly 80% is under the age of 30. Close to 60% are under the age of 15. So it's essentially a nation of children. And I found in my efforts to try to help her and be involved that some of my ideas were resonating, and just I felt useful and I found my purpose, and I just kept delaying my trip over and over again. But I found purpose in Somalia. I found that my unique voice was resonating with the overwhelming majority of the population. And it's a very addictive thing, being a part of a change, even if it's very small and incremental, seeing the ideas resulting into impact into the community. So, and like you said, I mean, it is a very universal concept. I think we're all looking for purpose, for meaning, to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And for me, that was in Somalia.
There's so much in what you said there that resonates. The piece that I'd like to kind of hone in on is the risks that you're taking. How or do you, or is it even in the same conversation as the impact that you're having and the purpose that you feel? How do you reconcile that?
It's very challenging environment to operate in. In 2012, there was a lot of changes happening. And at that time, I would drive my own car in Mogadishu. Things were starting to move. We'd have one armed escort. Before that, there was the front line. So you knew which areas to avoid. In 2012, things were getting a bit better. There was a lot of people from the diaspora coming back as well too. There was very strong movement because it was also the beginning of the transitional federal government, and there's a lot of hope. So people were being a little bit bold, myself included. But then things changed very quickly again. While you have a lot of stability and development and things look much safer, what was happening is a lot of targeted assassinations, a lot of explosions, and where before you knew where to avoid because it was the front line, now you don't. Now anywhere that more than 5 people gather, it's becoming very challenging. And sometimes I say it's an occupational hazard to be doing this work. You can't have millions of security guards and be in enclosed spaces to be able to reach the community. You have to be vulnerable, you have to be accessible. And it's a risk that comes with the work. But we try to calculate it as much as possible. And I think more than anyone, we know firsthand the risks that come with it. My father was killed doing this work. In 2019, my sister was killed doing this work. On my way here, one of my colleagues was killed. And you try to find solace in knowing that what you're doing is important and it's creating impact. And you try to measure and mitigate your risks as much as possible. But at the end of the day, you can't be effective if you're not accessible. There is a plethora of important services that are happening right now in Somalia, but everything is behind big barricades and reinforced concretes and roadblocks. So then even the women and children who need to access these services cannot navigate through it. So we find a lot of support in the community recognition, the community support, the network of human rights defenders that we rely on, but the hyper-localized grassroots nature of our work calls for a bit of openness.
Look, we're meant to shift into kind of our discussion conversation portion here. The question that I had intended to ask you each, as you know, is what keeps you going, what inspires you. I actually think we've heard that in spades. Jamila lighting the candle in times of immense change and challenge. Ilwad, a beautiful illustration of how you kind of measure up the risk versus the purpose that you feel. So if you'll allow me, I'll jump forward with one final question for each of you, which is, we're in a room of folks who run organizations that seek to make a difference, courageous philanthropists, folks who are seeking to be courageous philanthropists. What's something that you'd like this group to know about the nature of your work that we haven't spoken about yet? Maybe Jamila, I'll start with you and then we'll come to Ilwad.
Well, there are so many things that we are doing, and I couldn't brought it up here in our conversation today. One thing that I want to focus, that is the power of womanhood. the power of sisterhood, the power of love and care, the power of feeling responsible and feel that we are not useless just for eating or drinking or enjoying the life and going away. No, a purposeful, as my sister said. So these are the things that has covered all over the activity of we are doing, and especially the psychosocial program that we are holding right now. The current government, Taliban, are only allowing women in health sector and also in private sector and business sector. So these are the things that we have shifted our activities, like with the psychosocial programs that we are doing in our centers and also in the community through our psychosocial activists on the ground. So we can see that so many miseries at the same time, so many opportunities, so many possibilities, that if we as a human being feel our responsibility and hold each other hands and support each other, we can change, we can achieve.
Ilwad, I'll turn the question to you. What's something that you'd like folks to know about your work?
I think like the challenging context that we operate in, the issues that we're working on are global. Women's liberation, women's empowerment, women's political participation, creating peaceful and just societies, looking at alternative mental health techniques. In both of our contexts, we're working on these issues. And I think that something that's often overlooked is that it's not just pockets of small interventions. We're running an institution, and all of our interventions across different themes are interconnected. And with or without funding, often without funding, they are continuing to be a lifeline for the community. And we've been fortunate to have some opportunities to be able to do fundraising around the world. But what I think people don't see sometimes is that even though it's in a place very far from your home, the issues are the same. And there's so much opportunity of working with women peace builders that have a foot in the community, that are invested for the long term. And the way that we are both, if I can speak for you as well, is that we're looking at things from a very practical, but also exploratory approach to very stagnant and old issues. In Somalia, we're solving, I believe, some of the seemingly intractable conflicts of our community. We're looking at the nexus between climate change and conflict. We're looking at resource scarcity and the impact that has on displaced communities, how it disproportionately affects women and girls. And the capacity on ground is far higher than what people believe. And I think if grassroots actors were in spaces like this a bit more, the perception might change of what it is that partnerships drive. And I think that's something I'd love to leave this room with the awareness that local actors that have a long vetted interest in the development and the transition out of conflict of their communities require long-term partnerships as well too. And yeah.
Thank you, Ilwad. So the task of wrapping this up is impossible, and I will not try. Instead, what I'll do is invite the group here and again on Zoom to continue the conversation with us. To the extent that you've heard anything that resonates, or there's a thread that you want to pull, I encourage you to get in touch with Ilwad, with Jamila, with myself, the Aurora organization. You can do that through social media. You can find us through our conference organizers. And one more note for the group, both Jamila and Ilwad, some eagle-eyed folks who are looking at the dates might have noticed in their videos, have been in the fold with Aurora with us for quite a while. You were shortlisters and finalists before ultimately becoming laureates. The way that the process works is one that there is a broader network of finalists who are doing work of the like of Ilwad and Jamila in terms of putting themselves at immense personal risk to save others. To the extent that you feel positioned to be involved in that, make a nomination for next year's cycle, but also you can tune in. We're announcing the 2024 finalists at the Clinton Global Initiative week after next. And you know, we're very excited to continue that. Last thing I'll leave you with before handing it back over to our organizers is just that I hope that when you think about humanitarianism, to come back to our initial theme, you think about humans, and when you're thinking about humans, you're thinking about these incredible women. So thank you so much.